Water, earth, fire, and air. You know what? Let's go. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you must have heard about the new live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show. This would be the second time that someone attempted to make a live-action version of the animated cartoon. So a little background about my relationship with this particular show. It is my favorite show of all time. I think it is one of the best pieces of media, of all time, ever. So I hold this show very near and dear to my heart. So obviously hearing the news devastated me. I was annoyed and disgusted. I just didn't think that they would do it justice. As we know, 99% of live action adaptations of animated properties are terrible. I don't even think prior to the One Piece adaptation that there is a live action adaptation of something that people actually like. I don't know. What do I know? And so after hearing this news, I was like, okay, well, there's just no way I'm gonna watch this. It's like, why even bother? It's a waste of time. And I was like, why should I give Netflix a reason to make a season 2? But then the closer the premiere date got, the more interested I kind of was in watching it. Unfortunately for me, the trailer actually looked good. The ones that I've seen looked good, and I was like, wow, maybe this will be good, or at least not as bad as that project that we shall not even name, because we all know what I'm talking about. So I was like, yeah, I kind of want to watch it, call it morbid curiosity. And I actually paid for a Netflix subscription so that I could binge watch this show, because I don't have Netflix. I think Netflix has the worst shows and movies on there. I'm just not interested in Netflix. So yeah, like I said, I binge watched the whole season in like a day and a half. And I have feelings, thoughts, opinions. So I struggled to decide how I was going to go about making this video, about structuring my criticisms and compliments of the show. I didn't know if I should just go episode by episode, or if I should break down the characters and talk about what I did and didn't like about them, or if I should just do a mixture of both. But ultimately I decided to just go through what I liked first, what I didn't like, and then the changes from the animated cartoon to this live action adaptation, whether it's a good or bad change in my opinion. And I'll talk about why I think is good, why I think is bad. So let's just dive in. So the very first thing I wanted to compliment on the live action show was the costumes. I thought they did an excellent job with the costumes. Specifically Aang's and Jet's. I thought it looked pretty much identical to the cartoon. So I really do appreciate that. I liked how you were able to differentiate between the different nations. Like, you could look at someone and be like, oh yeah, they're from the Fire Nation. Oh, you can look at someone and be like, yeah, they're from the Water Tribe. In the cartoon, and that I think also translated well into the live action show. The hair also was great. Katara's wasn't exactly like the cartoon, but I did like it because I feel like it would be very difficult to imitate the exact hairstyle on a real life person, especially the back. The loopies were easy and they did that, so I'm fine with it. It's just the back, the little it's not even a bun, it's like a little roll. It's a little roll. And so I was just fine with the actress having that braid down the back. I thought it was fine. Sokka's hair was not hard to do at all, so they did a good job. It'd be kind of hard not to with a hairstyle like that. Aang's arrow, I also liked. I liked the details of it. That was probably the one good thing that they did in the other project that we won't talk about. Like the design, because it actually looked like a tattoo, like in the animated show. It's a cartoon and it's early 2000s at that, so I'm like, I don't know if they could have really put that much intricate like designs and details in Aang's tattoo, especially when it lights up. So I did like how in this show the arrow was very, like throughout his whole body, the arrow was very tattoo like, The bending, I the for some reason this just infuriated me in the other property, how the bending was choreographed. This is very much well documented. I think even casual viewers know that the bending is based off of like different martial arts styles. Firebending is based on Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. Waterbending is based on Tai Chi. Airbending is based on Bagua Zhang. And earthbending is based on Hung Gar. The majority of earthbending, I'm not going to get into the difference because it's not applicable in this first season, but you get my drift. So my problem with the movie was that the bending just looked like they were dancing for the most part. It didn't seem like any effort was put in to make it look like actual martial arts, whereas in this new live action show, it looks like it's actually a martial art. I'm not a martial arts expert. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not an expert on martial arts. So I don't know for a fact that they are using martial arts styles for the bending in this show. It just looks like they are, and I think that's very neat. I'm hoping that they did actually like take from the martial arts styles that it was originally based on. And to me, it's what it looks like, especially with waterbending. It's exactly what it looks like in the show. Katara's movements are very fluid, as it's supposed to be because it's waterbending. And it's very reminiscent of the cartoon, which I loved, obviously. Another thing that I liked was the casting, especially for the main four, Sokka, Aang, Katara, Zuko. I thought they all looked fantastic. Aang is the cutest kid I've ever seen in my entire life. That actor is adorable, and I want to adopt him. He is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Katara looks not exactly like the character in the show, the cartoon, obviously, but she looks like a Katara. I'm not stressing about the nitty-gritty details of making sure that the actresses and actors look exactly like the characters because they're animated, they are not real people. It's gonna be a little difficult to get people that look exactly like the cartoon, except for with Sokka, because he looks exactly like Sokka would, and he sounds almost exactly like Sokka in the cartoon as well, which I think is actually pretty wild. And Aang, I think Aang, he's adorable, but I think he looks exactly like what I would imagine Aang would be if he were a real boy. The last thing I'm going to compliment is just the overall atmosphere. It felt like I was in the world of Avatar. The sets always looked great, especially Omashu. If you put like a side by side of them, the live action show and the cartoon, it looks almost exactly alike. I very much appreciate the effort that was put into it. It just really made me feel like I was in this world, which is what you want to do when you make a property like this. Obviously, it's an adaptation, but it was a lot to live up to. And in order for you to do that, you have to just try and encapsulate what the original cartoon was all about. And I think in regards to the set and the casting and the costumes, I think they did a very, very good job of making it seem like this is actually Avatar The Last Airbender that we're watching, you know? So, now is the time that we get into what exactly I wasn't a fan of. So let me just be clear, I am not a showrunner, I am not a script writer, I have no experience writing anything that's not fan fiction, so I don't know how to make a script or a story for the big screen or even a TV show or anything like that. I am not saying that I could have done a better job with this show because I know for a fact that I couldn't have. However, when you make a piece of media, you are kind of just opening the door for people to talk about it and possibly critique it and talk about what they think should have been done instead, you know? So, the first thing I would like to talk about what I didn't like was kind of the acting. Let me just be clear, it wasn't terrible. Like, I'm not saying these were the worst performances I've ever seen in my entire life because that would be incredibly false. I mean, we've all seen the other thing. They weren't that bad. But it wasn't great acting, specifically the main three, like Aang, Katara, Sokka. I don't know if their acting was all that great. Like I said, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. I think Dallas Liu as Zuko was doing, I think he did pretty good. There was like a moment or two where he could have done a tiny bit better, but I'm not an acting coach. And I think he did great for the most part, especially in the flashbacks that they showed with him and Ozai and him and Iroh and just him in general when he was younger, before the scar. You know, I thought he did very well in those scenes. He's no Dante Bosco, but I don't think anyone on this earth is like Dante Bosco. You know, I grew up with the cartoon, as most people who are watching this show did as well. And Zuko was my first animated crush. I was in love with that boy. Seriously, I was in love with him. So no one is going to top Dante Bosco, but I'm not saying Dallas Liu should have even tried to. You know, he did a good job of making it seem like he was still Zuko. You know, he didn't feel like he was a completely different character. I still felt like I was watching Zuko. So I'm not criticizing him really at all. Like I said, a few scenes he wasn't the best at, but he is still young, as are the rest of the cast. So even if they weren't that great, I think they could definitely improve. They could definitely get better. So it wasn't terrible. It's just what I'm gonna say on that. The humor is the next thing I want to talk about. It wasn't like excruciating to watch. I didn't feel like I was being like tortured while watching this show. I was actually pretty into it for the most part. It obviously wasn't going for an entirely comedic tone. The cartoon's not entirely comedic either. There are a lot of moments in there that is like rough. If you've seen the show, you know that it is a rough story actually. Like people call it a kids show, and I guess by definition it is. You know, it was on Nickelodeon. It is a cartoon. It was targeted towards children, but the thing about Avatar The Last Airbender is that it is for everybody. There are topics in there that really like a lot of people can look at and relate to, or look at and be like, oh my god, that's dark. Like genocide. They talk about genocide in the original show. They talk about child abuse and child neglect in the original show. They talk about murder quite a bit in the original show, you know? So it's not a show for kids, but it's also a very funny show. It's like a balance, you know? It's incredibly dark, incredibly compelling. It's a story that is just incredibly interesting, But along the way, along the journey that these characters go on, they have just like a good time because they are still kids at the end of the day, and kids are gonna do kid things. And it's just like a very funny show. The humor is more hit than miss. I can't even think of a joke in the cartoon that didn't make me laugh. I think all the jokes make me laugh. In this show, there was not a lot of humor, and the humor that was there was not all that great. But this is kind of just like a tiny critique because it's not like they need humor to move the story along. It's just that, you know, you make an adaptation, so you kind of have to just compare and contrast. So, like, I keep saying it's not terrible. That's just the critique of this whole show in general. It's not a terrible show. It's not. I don't even think it's a terrible adaptation. I just think that if I didn't watch the original cartoon, if I wasn't like in love with that show, I don't think I would be critiquing this show really at all. Maybe it's the acting still, I'm guessing, but like the humor and what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, I don't think I would be critiquing it as hard if I hadn't watched the original cartoon, or if the original cartoon didn't even exist. If this was just like the first time an Avatar The Last Airbender show was being made, I think I would like it a lot more than I do now. Now I am going to talk about the changes that they made from the original cartoon, you know, in this adaptation. Most of the changes I was kind of fine with. I understand that if they just took like the cartoon and just like slapped it on a script for live action, like word for word, verbatim, scene for scene, it would be just boring. It would be like, why even bother making a live action show, you know? So I get that. I'm not saying that no changes should ever be made. So I was fine with most of the changes. It's just that some of them I was not okay with at all. The first change that comes to mind is Boomy. I'm not sure why they made Boomy like that. You know, the whole appeal of Boomy and the whole appeal of that episode was knowing that Aang had a friend that he had pre-war. Everyone that Aang knows, everyone that Aang loves was either murdered by the Fire Nation, you know, the air nomads, or are dead. Like his friend Kuzan from the Fire Nation, I'm almost certain he's dead, you know. All the other friends that he had that wasn't in the air nomad but was alive 100 years ago, they're dead. The Boomy is the only exception somehow. He's the only person that is still alive from Aang's past. So seeing that and knowing that and then finding out that it's Boomy by the end of the episode is very heartwarming, very touching. You know, you're like, wow, this is a friendship that is still going strong, you know? Like Aang thought he lost everybody, but here comes Boomy, and that makes it feel a little better. It makes it seem like Aang didn't lose every single person that he had in his life, you know? The reason for the episode, like all those tests that Boomy was putting Aang through was literally just to reveal that he's Boomy. The tests that happen in this live action show, it's like they seem kind of purposeless. I like especially the one at the end where Boomy has like these two giant rocks, one above his own head, one above Aang's head, and he's not helping with any, like, either rock. So Aang has to hold up both rocks with his airbending, and Aang is like, hey, can you like not can you stop doing this, or at least like hold up the rock that's above your own head so that you don't die? And Boomy's like, yeah, no, this is what being the Avatar is all about. You're gonna have to make choices that are hard, and sometimes the outcome isn't what you thought it would be, and blah blah blah. The Avatar is hard, you abandon the world, you're a loser. Like, Boomy was just coming at Aang for really no reason. It's like I understand like that fisherman. In the cartoon, episode 12, The Storm, one of the best episodes of the show, definitely. The fisherman that Sokka's like working for, he goes off on Aang. He's like, "You abandoned the world. You're the Avatar. We needed you. The war is your fault." It makes sense for a stranger to say that because they don't know Aang. They don't know the story of what happened with Aang. And Boomy doesn't know the entire story either. Like, he doesn't know that Aang, like, was trapped in that iceberg the whole entire time. But as your friend, why would you even like accuse him of doing something, at least without trying to figure out what exactly happened? He was very aggressive. Is just the best way to put it, I think. And it's like back to the point that Boomy is trying to make about how the Avatar has to make like hard decisions and that's the Avatar's job. We don't need him to say that because we already have 9 million other people telling Aang the exact same thing. Like when he had that talk with Avatar Kyoshi, she said the same thing. When he had that talk with Avatar Kuruk, he said the exact same thing. When he had that talk with Avatar Roku, guess what? He said the exact same thing. 3 people, all of them past avatars, are telling him, yeah, being the Avatar means you have to make hard decisions. It sucks, but that's the job. We don't need Boomy to then be the 4th person to tell him that. We as an audience already know that. We know that being the Avatar is not fun. We know it's not fun. So I don't know why Boomy has to be the one to also tell Aang. We get it. It's just not fun. Boomy is not fun in this live action adaptation. He is a real buzzkill. And that actually sucks because I think the actor did a fantastic job. The acting was great. The laugh sounded exactly like Boomy. He sounded exactly like the voice actor for in the cartoon. And it just sucks because Boomy was such a fun character. He was very goofy. He made dumbass jokes, which he still does in the live action, but it's just like such a 180. Like he says the let us leave joke, and then 5 minutes later he's like trying to kill Aang with those fucking rock candies. I don't understand what's going on in this show right now. And then by the end of that scene when Aang and Boomy ride on that delivery system like slide thing, I'm just sitting here wondering why Aang would even want to still hang out with this guy after doing that whole rock test thing and saying you abandoned the world and you need to make tough decisions. I don't know why Aang would even want to still hang out with this guy and go on that slide like they did in the old days. It's beyond me. So yeah, it's a sad day for Boomy fans. It's just what I'm getting at. I, as I'm sure a lot of you do, remember when those articles were going around about how Sokka's character was going to be less sexist. They said they were going to tone down the sexism in this live action adaptation. And when I heard that, at first I was incredibly annoyed. I was like, what's the point of that? That is like, it's a part of Sokka's character arc in the first season. Even though he gets over it pretty fast in the first season, I think by like episode 4, that's when he meets Suki and the Kyoshi Warriors, and he like gets over his sexism 4 episodes into the show. But it's still an obstacle that Sokka has to get over, and I think it's a very great lesson for not only him but for little kids all over the world. Not to be like dramatic and act like this is just like the best, most educational, life-changing piece of media ever put to a screen, but I think as a kid seeing Sokka, talk about stereotypical gender roles and how men are good for hunting and fighting and women are good for like cooking and sewing and all this stuff, it's annoying to hear that, but it was great in the animated show. Like he goes to him and Aang and Katara. They go to Kyoshi Island, and Sokka's just being a jerk, a sexist jerk. He's saying, "Oh well, women can't fight." Basically, is what he's saying. And then he gets his ass handed to him by Suki, and she does it effortlessly. She doesn't break a sweat. I just like this moment is in my head for the rest of my life. She like makes him fall, puts him on his ass, and then immediately after she opens up her fan and like fans herself with it. And it's just like she did not try, and he was trying his hardest. And then he gets up again, tries to fight, loses again. He just embarrasses himself. He is an embarrassment. And it's funny, you know? And like you and it's weird because you kind of feel a tiny bit bad for Sokka, but he is what he gets for thinking that girls can't fight just because they're girls, you know? And it's satisfying to see Suki do that. So, yeah. Plus, it's also just like kind of a cute story for like Suki and Sokka, you know, like how many couples can say that when they met they beat each other's ass, well, not each other's ass, because Sokka did not beat Suki's ass. Suki did all the beating. But it's just kind of funny, you know? Like how you go from Suki like kicking his ass and then by the end of the show they're a full-blown couple. Like honestly, the best couple in the show, if I'm being 100% honest. Best couple in the show. It's a great story. And so it's kind of just like weird to change that. But I was like, you know what? Let me not judge this show before it even comes out. Maybe because you know we know that sometimes headlines are just clickbaity. They are misrepresenting what the actors or the showrunners or anything, like they know that clickbaity titles are gonna make us go and read it, and it may not even be true. So I say, you know what, let me just wait until the show comes out, and then I'll watch it and I'll judge it for myself, and I'll see if it's misconstrued or if it is actually if the sexism is actually toned down. So after watching all 8 episodes start to finish, I am here to report that they actually did misconstrue the words of whoever said that quote. I don't even know who said the quote. They misconstrued it, you know, because Sokka's sexism was not toned down, it was turned completely off. He says not one sexist thing in the show, I don't think. He says like nothing sexist, which I mean, out of context, it's like, why would I want him to say something sexist? But that's part of his story, like I said earlier. I don't know what there is to gain from him not being sexist. Like, if you don't want to make him as sexist, that would be one thing. Okay, sure. If they actually did tone it down a little bit, I'd be like, okay, sure, fine. But he's not sexist at all. Instead of him saying that Katara can't fight because she's a girl or whatever, he's against her fighting because he is worried about her safety. He doesn't want her to get hurt, which is admirable. I love that. But Sokka in the cartoon was also worried about his sister, very much so, especially in the episode when Aang accidentally burns her. You know, you can see that Sokka cares about Katara a lot. So it's not like the cartoon version of Sokka wasn't also worried about Katara, because he was. But the main reason why he didn't think girls could fight or should fight is because he didn't think that they were as good as guys. Like I said, like Sokka was still also worried about Katara in the original show, but he somehow found the time to tell Katara to get back to the kitchen. So I don't know what the big deal is in this live action adaptation. And so now we're kind of left with this Sokka that lacks characterization a little bit. Like, what is compelling about his story? Yeah, like that scene with Ko, the face dealer, when he like puts them in these flashback moments or whatever. We see that Sokka's father is literally just like shit talking him to this other person in their tribe. I think Bato. He's just shit talking Sokka, and Sokka like overhears and is obviously sad. So I get that, you know, I think that was pretty compelling a little bit, but it's just kind of like, what is the trajectory of Sokka's story if you're not going to add the sexism, you know? Because he's 15 years old, I think, in the live action. He's definitely 15 in the cartoon. They don't, like, confirm the ages, I don't think, of the characters in the live action show, but I'm assuming that they are the same ages as they were in the cartoon. So Sokka's 15 years old. He's a boy, 15-year-old boy. We all said the dumbest stuff when we were 15. Oh my gosh. The dumbest stuff. So it just makes sense for Sokka to be sexist and just like he learns his lesson. It's fine. I think it's great characterization for Sokka, but whatever. Also, to piggyback off of Sokka's sexism, I would also just like to talk about a small change. Thank you. I would like to talk about a small change that happened near the end of the season with like Master Paku when they're in the Northern Water Tribe. So in the original cartoon, they go to the Northern Water Tribe, and Katara is like, "Yeah, I'm so psyched to be here. I want to learn water bending. I want to learn how to fight. I want to get better." And Master Paku was like, no, you're gonna learn how to heal, and that's what girls do here. That's all you're gonna do. You're not gonna fight, because that's what guys do." And Katara's like pissed, obviously. And so she literally is like, "Bitch, fight me." And it's like, it's like that in this live action version too. Even the fight choreography in the live action is very reminiscent of the cartoon fight choreography, so I do really appreciate that. I thought it was very cool to see, especially when Katara made that ice like thing and was like shooting it like chips or whatever. And then when Master Paku like made that ice thing that like had her stuck like this, that was very much in the cartoon as well. And then with Katara, when her hair like falls loose, that was also in the cartoon. So I did like that. I really did appreciate that. However, it's kind of just like, what's the point of adding that? Because he doesn't end up teaching her in the live action version. Like in the cartoon, they fight. She loses obviously because she's not experienced, but she's wearing her necklace. And Master Paku's like, "Bro, that's my necklace." And she's like, What are you talking about?" And then they find out that there's a connection between the two of them through Gran, Katara's Gran. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And then he kind of just learns to not be so sexist, because that's why Katara's grandma didn't want to be with him, because he was sexist and lame. So he's like, "Oh, maybe I should change." And then he does, and he teaches Katara, and she kicks all the boys' asses in the Water Tribe, and it's cool. And then she's such a natural at it, she's so good that he's like, "Bro, you can just take over for me. You can go teach Aang yourself. You don't even need me here." In the live action show, it's like he doesn't even teach her at all, I don't think. If I remember correctly, there's not even like a scene where he's training her. He's just like, "Yeah, you didn't beat me in this fight, but you can be a warrior because I have no one else to help with fighting this battle that the Fire Nation people have started, and I don't want my people to die. So you can come fight." And then like later on, when the Zuko and Katara are fighting, and Katara's like whooping ass, much more than she was previously. Zuko's like, "You little peasant." He's like, you little peasant. You found the master, haven't you?" And yeah, in this Master Paku. And it's like, he says the exact same thing in this live action show, which I'm not gonna lie, I did like. And then like Katara's like, "Yeah, me." And I'm like, okay, yeah, but like, I don't know. I think I'm just annoyed because they didn't add the "You rise with the moon, I rise with the sun." That was iconic. It's kind of like exposition in a way. It tells us that firebenders are very strong, because they draw their power from the sun, and that would make sense, especially with Sozin's comet. It's just like a ball of fire, so that's how the firebenders get really strong. And the first waterbenders, they watched how the moon moved the tides. That's literally what is talked about in the cartoon. So it makes sense that the moon makes waterbenders more powerful. And then later on in this show and also the cartoon, we see that when the moon is like, the moon spirit's captured in that bag, it turns red, they're weak. And then when Zhao kills the thing, they can't even bend at all, which makes sense, So it's a little bit of an exposition dump without it seeming like it's exposition. So I do like that scene in the cartoon, but you know what? I'm not too mad that it's not included in the live action show, even though I do wish that it was. Next change is Zuko himself. So as I said earlier, This boy was my first animated crush. He set the bar for all the traumatized, emotionally damaged characters that I would fall in love with later on down the road. Like, he was literally that guy, and he has one of the best character arcs ever in fiction, I think. So in the Netflix show, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't even necessarily bad. So let me just get that out of the way. He was one of the highlights to me. It's like he wasn't mean enough, if that makes sense. Like in the cartoon, he very much is an angsty 16-year-old boy. He yells at Uncle Iroh, he slaps things out of people's hands, he is just going through it, which makes sense when you know his backstory. And it's like obviously we know that Zuko loves his uncle. It's obvious that he does, but he's still very much an asshole to Uncle Iroh in the cartoon. And I'm not saying that the change is necessarily bad. It's just that I don't know. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself and ahead of this show. You know, I don't know what's going to happen in season 2, especially the ending when in the cartoon Zuko betrays Uncle Iroh to join Azula and go back to his father. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but I guess I'll see. Speaking of Zuko's story, it is now time to talk about my biggest criticism of this show. The thing that they changed that I cannot stand. I hate this change with a burning passion. Let's talk about Ozai. Ozai is, to put it bluntly, the worst fucking father I've ever seen in my life. And no, I don't watch a lot of stuff, so he might not even like rank top 10 of terrible fathers, but he is a piece of shit father. That's like, you can't even dispute that. He is a terrible father, and that quality should not have been changed. It's like in the Netflix show, he very much he sucks. He does suck because he still does burn Zuko. You know, that in and of itself makes him a shitty father, a shitty person, just shit, you know. But he's just a little too complimentary of Zuko. He's talking to Azula and he's saying stuff like he's the one who displayed resilience and dedication. That's what I look to in a future heir or the future head of the throne or whatever he says, you know. And it's like, no. Azula is a firebending prodigy. That's why her fire is blue. She is a firebending prodigy. She is like the best, one of the best firebenders in the show. Why would Ozai be like, no, yeah, Zuko is like a little better than you in this regard? What? Like, Azula is the perfect child when it comes to Ozai. Ozai literally told Zuko, Azula was born lucky, you were lucky to be born. What? And like, Ozai sees Zuko as a weak because he shows compassion. He showed compassion with those Fire Nation soldiers that they were going to sacrifice, which is the whole reason why Zuko got burned. He hates Zuko for showing compassion to those soldiers. And then when the Agni Kai between Zuko and his father happens, Zuko's obviously like, I'm not gonna fight you, you're my father. And Ozai is like, oh, that's a weak ass move, let me burn your face. So yeah, like, Zuko is just a very compassionate person, and Ozai does not like that. He does not think that that is a valuable quality to have in the Fire Nation, but specifically as Fire Lord, which is why he's not even entertaining the idea of Zuko being Fire Lord. What? Speaking of, this is like kind of not related, but do they even call like the fight between Zuko and Ozai and Agni Kai? Because that's kind of like, that's the term for it in the cartoon, and I really like that name because it's very just cool. It's like just a cool term, an Agni Kai. Like, challenge someone to an Agni Kai, yeah, cool. But anyway, so they made Ozai too nice about Zuko and too mean to Azula. Like, Ozai is not a good father to Azula either, because he does manipulate and use her, because he is, let's say it all at once. He is a what? He is a piece of shit father. Okay, so he is not nice to Azula either, but he is much more complimentary to her. He obviously likes her a lot more than he likes Zuko, because unlike Zuko, Azula is willing to go out and terrorize people and terrorize the world, and he can use her to further his plans of like conquering the whole entire world. So that's why he likes Azula. Whereas with Zuko, he thinks he's weak and he doesn't like him because he's too nice. Like that scene in the Netflix show when Iroh's son Luten dies and Ozai comes up to him and he says something nice. Do you think that the Ozai in the cartoon would even do that shit? I don't even know if he went to his nephew's funeral, if there was one. I don't even know. Like, he literally went to Azulon and was like, yeah, okay, so Iroh lost his son, and he is broken up about it, obviously, because it's his son. But he should not be the next Fire Lord, because that's weak, and he's not even up for it, so I should be the Fire Lord. That's the kind of Ozai that I really need to see in this live-action show. I don't think Ozai should have any redeeming qualities. I don't want to see him complimenting Zuko. I don't want to hear him trying to be nice to Uncle Iroh about Luten. I don't want to see him do anything nice, okay? And then it's like, if Ozai is Zuko's #1 fan, then why did he banish him to find the Avatar? Like, in the cartoon, Ozai banishes Zuko, and it's like, go find the Avatar, and when you do, you can come back. And at that time, the Avatar was meant, like they thought the Avatar was gone forever. So Ozai basically was just telling Zuko to get out of his face and to never return ever again. And so he banishes him again in this live action show, and he banishes him before the Avatar is discovered again. But if you love Zuko this much, if you're his #1 fan, if you want his autograph so badly, why would you banish him? Why even burn him to begin with? In the cartoon, Ozai tried to kill Zuko. In that one scene, in season 3, when Zuko was like, yeah, I'm leaving the Fire Nation to go join the Avatar and teach him firebending, and he's like telling him off. He's like, what you did to me was cruel, it was fucked up, and you're a lame ass bitch. He does all that, and then because it's the day of the black sun and the firebenders can't firebend, and then when the sun starts peeking out just a tiny bit and Ozai gets his his firebending back, the first thing he does is shoot lightning at Zuko, and he doesn't know that Zuko can redirect it. He doesn't know that Iroh taught him that. So he's shooting this lightning at Zuko with the full intention of murdering him. He does not care about that child. Okay, he does not think that he has any redeeming qualities. He does not think he is right for the throne. He wants Zuko out of his life forever, I'm sure. And even in the cartoon, when he thinks that Zuko killed the Avatar, he's not patting Zuko on the back, really. I mean, he invites him to a meeting, but he's not, like, overtly nice to Zuko from what we see. He's not like, oh, I wish your sister was more like you. He never does that. I'm just very annoyed because they're trying to downplay the abuse that Ozai inflicted on Zuko, and like I said, I am open to a lot of changes in this show, but that is one thing that I do not think you need to change at all. No, it is a huge part of Zuko's backstory, a huge part of his motivations. It's just no. Now, to end this video, like a half-assed book report in 8th grade, in conclusion, it's not a terrible show. It's not even a bad one. I did like a majority of it, like I said. Seeing characters was cool. I thought Azula's actress, I didn't speak about Azula's actress, but I thought she did very well, actually. Her and Uncle Iroh's actor and Dallas Liu, which is Zuko's actor, I think they all did great. Daniel Dae Kim, as always, is great. Daniel Dae Kim as Ozai, great. First of all, gorgeous man. And Ozai is actually like gorgeous too, which makes it very, which is which is unfortunate because he is a loser, but he is a hot loser. So, Daniel Day Kim is a great casting choice, and not to objectify him because I don't like men, but I'm not blind. So when Daniel Day Kim, when he and Zuko were fighting and he had that like chain against his boobs and he like he like he broke that chain like it was nothing. I was like, oof, damn. Okay, I hope you win. But it's not, anyway, it's not a terrible adaptation. Like I said earlier, if I had not seen the original cartoon, or if the original cartoon was not even in existence, I think I would really enjoy this show a lot more than I did. However, it is an adaptation, so there are going to be some comparisons, and it's unavoidable, you know. I will be seeing season 2 because I'm just very curious to see, first of all, who plays Toph. I'm very curious to see like what path they're going to go, how they're going to tell the stories of season 2, you know, and also season 3. I just want to see how this whole show plays out. So I will be watching season 2 and season 3, or whatever, however many seasons that they have. I don't know if they're going to stick with the 3-season format, or if they're going to only have 2 seasons. They could only have 2 for all I know. I doubt it, but they could. Or if they're going to have more than 3 seasons, I don't know. But I will be watching at least the 2nd season. I'll watch it and judge it and see if it's actually worth continuing. But as of now, I will be doing that in like 2050 when season 2 drops. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I didn't even mention like not being on this channel for like 4 months. A lot has been going on in my life. It has been rough, but I'm back and I'm trying to upload semi-regularly, but I am in nursing school, so that is kicking my ass 7 ways to Sunday. So I can't guarantee, to the 5 of you out there that's gonna watch this, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be making like consistent videos, but I do want to try. I wanted to do movie commentary at first, which is what my last video, the after video, that's like a movie commentary. But it was just kind of, I don't know if I liked it all that much. I think I much prefer like this way, like watching something, writing like bullet points or notes or a script or whatever, and then just going off that script and then like placing scenes to emphasize what I'm talking about. I think I much prefer doing that as opposed to watching and then like commenting on it while I'm watching it, because I am not that funny. I am not funny enough to think of stuff like on the fly. For the most part, I'm a funny person, but I'm not that funny, you know. I'm not like Dylan or Trin or, you know, so that's just my life story if you cared. You know, I put it at the end so that you could just skip it if you don't care. So I hope you liked it. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you in the next video, maybe in 5 more months, I'm sure. Alright, toodles!